I'm not the most consistent with posting, at least not in this chapter of my life. But I still do check my channel whenever someone leaves a comment or something. And I've also seen that routinely, actually, it hasn't been anything other than this. The two videos that consistently get views or engagement are the two videos I made about career stuff, why I left my job, stories from investment banking. Even though those videos are, I think, one's at least 2 years old, the other's over 6 months old. And I guess it's because career is a really big thing, big question, big conversation in many people's lives, especially when you're younger, right in the middle of it, maybe always, honestly. This question of career is really one of what do you do? And it's a question that we never got asked as children, if you recall. No one was asking us, well, not seriously what you wanted to do when you were older, very lightheartedly. But it was more about who you are and the facets of yourself and your nature that are beginning to unfold or deepen with age. But there does hit this shift at some point when it does become more about what do you do. Probably when you're in high school or something. And then it becomes a really big question. It seems like your life is building up to this question of what do you do, what am I to do, rather than what it was before, which is, who are you? And this is the question that we don't get asked quite enough these days, if at all. And it's one that I don't believe I was ever asked when I was in school or by anyone else I knew for that matter. So I recall, actually I was looking back at a text thread I had with my crush of all people. It was about this question of career, what do you want to do? And she asked me, how the fuck do you know you want to do investment banking? And I replied, I don't think anyone knows for sure, but investment banking is just 2 years of misery used to set yourself up for something easier, and you still make a lot. And she said, frick. So despite the awareness of what I was signing myself up for, it was still so consuming that I did it anyways. I signed up for the misery and whatnot. Because I didn't know who I was, or rather, I forgot who I was. because it became so much about what do you do. And what's sitting with me from this, especially in this chapter of my life, as I am pursuing a new doing, let's call it that, is that we treat what we do as who we are, rather than an expression of who we are, a flavor of who we are. And it's no surprise when we place so much weight, our entire identity and existence, on this question of what do you do as who we are, that it is such a daunting question, one that we rush to figure out as quickly as possible and still never really get anywhere close. Because what you do is unlimited, it's boundless. You really can do anything. But who you are, your essence, your nature, is unchanging. It has been embedded in you since birth, revealed as you've grown older. And saying that, it hasn't gone away. It may simply be folded over or covered, but who you are has always been here, and it's here right now. It hasn't left you. As hard as you may try to forget, you never do. Who you are is always here. And it's this question of who are you that we need to ask before we even think about what we do with our lives. In saying that, the thinking honestly gets taken out of the equation. What you do is kind of just decided for you. Just as much as an acorn doesn't decide to grow into a tree, as much as a tadpole doesn't decide to grow into a frog. Who it is, what it is already here. And the same goes for you. So if you're asking this question of what should I do, what am I to do, I encourage you to put that aside for now and sit with the question, who am I? You can just take that as you will, see whatever comes up. But there are also other questions that are pointing toward the same inquiry. Questions like, when have I felt most deeply alive? What are my greatest pains and sorrows? How have they shaped me? What are the gifts in them? What are my innate gifts? What is my essence? What is it I can't not do? What's the world I want to live in? Questions like these are all ones that allow you to start knowing yourself once more. Because your answers, as much as they may seem new to you, they're really not. They're embedded in this truth of who you are that has always been there. just grown disconnected from it. So when I sit here right now, where I am in life, pursuing this path of coaching, healing, facilitation, whatever you want to call it. And when I've sat with these questions myself, it's so clear I was meant to do this and not say finance or even this YouTube thing. It's not the main vehicle in my life. I should make a distinction there. YouTube I see as an expression of who I am. Writing is an expression of who I am. Coaching, facilitation is an expression of who I am. Finance wasn't. Neither is much else for me, quite honestly. I look at my friend and roommate who just finished boot camp to now go out and do software engineering. And I look at him and I'm like, wow, I really admire how hard you worked. And I admire how much you enjoy about it. But it's not for me. It's not an expression of who I am. It's not when I feel most deeply alive. It's not when I feel like my gifts are most clearly expressed. But for him, it is. Just as much as what you end up doing is an expression of who you are. And there is so much clarity when this question, who am I, is sat with. It cuts straight through the noise of all the possible things you could do. It's not an easy question to sit with. Again, how often have you been asked that question in your life? Not many for me. And it's a difficult one to sit with because of what it requires, necessitates for you to question about yourself, the life you've been living, the path you're on or headed down. It's difficult to let all of that go, but also entirely necessary, because in that space there is a freedom of being who you are and expressed into the world as that. That makes things so much simpler, so much clearer, not without difficulty and uncertainty. I'm definitely wrestling with that a lot right now. But I don't sit with the question of what am I to do with my one precious life, as Mary Oliver puts it. And the expressions of who I am, rather, what do I do, they may continue to change. Before it was just YouTube, then it was writing, and now it's, say, podcasting and even deeper, this coaching work. But it has always been this expression of the same I am that has never changed. So if you are currently grappling with this question of what to do, career, paths, all this stuff, especially if you're in school or early in your career, I encourage you to sit with the question of who am I? And all of the associated questions that point towards it. And just see what comes up from those conversations with yourself. And if you'd like to have a conversation with me, then I welcome it. Reach out to me or even just comment if there's any questions or things I can address, as evidently a lot of people seem to be more interested in the career stuff than the other stuff I have to share. So I welcome all of those. But until then, I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And have a lovely rest of your day.